that we on a new video now. I think you did save, but make sure nobody's on there. All right, y'all, we live again. I had to make sure I reset my internet, but we're ready. I got Miss Shavonne with me. We're going to talk about this Women's Summit. So y'all come on in the room, get in the comment section, let me know you're here. We're going to talk about identity a little bit tonight. I got the missus here. We about to get it in. So y'all come on in the room. Gonna vibe out a little bit. Y'all know I've been rocking this Jonathan Baker. So y'all come on in the room. Hey Dana. Good to have you. Y'all come on, get in the comment section. Let me know you're here. And also share this video. Share this. Let somebody know we're live. Hey Debbie, good evening to you. Hopefully y'all two-stepping with me a little bit. We two-stepping to Jonathan Baker tonight. We getting there. Sarita, how you doing? Getting ready to do this. All right, we about ready for this conversation. We'll rock out a little bit, Jonathan a little bit. I'm gonna at least get to his breakdown. I'm gonna turn it up too. There you go. That Jones smooth. Just so you can see that y'all snapping y'all fingers with this. We getting ready to get started, y'all. This Jonathan Baker though, he grooving. Trust and believe that I'll see you through. Let me show you your first lady jamming out. I would never leave nor forsake you, cause I'm just trust and believe that I'll see you through. Said I would never leave nor forsake you, cause I'm all right. I appreciate y'all. I see you, Angelia. She said smooth. Yes, it is.
With the F.
Yes, indeed. It definitely is that. Debbie says he sounds good. Nice beat. Yeah, Debbie, that's a good one. That's definitely one of my favorite songs from Jonathan. And man, he's just an amazing artist. But look, we are live. I've got Shavonne with me tonight. Shavonne, what's up?
What's up with you? You can't see me on the two-step, though.
Oh, Lord have mercy. We're not even going to engage in this tonight. Alicia says, good evening. What's up, Alicia? Good to have you. And ladies of the Christ Community Church, good to have you all on tonight, and anybody else who's on with us. We're not going to be on too long, but I wanted to just engage with Shavonne on tonight because we're making preparation for our Women's Summit. And as we make preparation for that, I want to make sure that you are registered. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to text out the link. I need to make sure everybody is on the text list. Look at Leash talking about that's an old joint. We already know you've been up on it, Leash, but we trying to catch everybody else up. Debbie says, hey, First Lady.
Hey, Miss Debbie.
And Sister Carla Hughes is on here. She said, love that song. Yes, indeed, Carla. Certainly love that song as well. So want you to be ready for the Women's Summit on tomorrow. I'm gonna recap some of my points around identity that I shared with you Sunday sermon. I'm going to let Shavonne kind of respond to some of that. We're going to do that quickly. We're also going to talk about what you can expect on tomorrow. So I'm going to let Shavonne lead the conversation on that. If you haven't registered, we want you to get registered. This is not just a Christ community thing. We're inviting all women. I know we have some women from Philadelphia who are going to be joining us from the Prince of Peace Baptist Church. We have some women in the city of Erie that are not a part of Christ Community Church that I know are already registered, and we're excited to have them. So we have a few women from some other churches. Then, of course, we have our own Christ Community women. And one of the things that I do know, ladies, is that not everybody is on Facebook. So we do have to make sure that we get this link texted out. And if somebody doesn't know how to register, it's a good idea for us to help them in between tonight and tomorrow. So we aren't going to do any cutoff for the registration because we want you to register up until tomorrow. We probably will try to cut maybe tomorrow afternoonish or so, but we do want to give you opportunity to make sure that you get your name on the roll. So Shavonne, before I go any further, you got anything that you want to say?
No, not really. Just hello to everybody. It's good to be on with you again. I think it's been a few weeks since Darrell and I have been on together. I'm laughing at Lee. She said, "Get 'em, Lady S."
Uh,
We'll make the S for smooth, Lady
Lord have
Smooth.
mercy. Don't even get her started, Leash. He's supposed to be on my side, but go ahead.
But anyway, I'm excited about fellowshipping with you tomorrow and learning together. I know our facilitator, Tina Pelzer, is really excited about being with us as well. So share, share, share. We do have some ladies already registered, and we're excited about that. I've seen DC, I've seen Texas, I've seen Philly, I've seen Erie. So we should have a pretty good cross section of people on. And it also looks like we should have a pretty good cross section of ages as well. And I would just, if you can, encourage these other young adult women to join on with us too, because I think the conversation around identity and confidence is really important, and we should capture that audience as soon as we possibly can, and not wait until they're 30, 40, 50 to begin having the conversation.
Right. Good stuff. Thank you. Thank you, Siobhan, for sharing that. I'm getting ready to uh, give you this number. I can't remember it offhand, but I'm getting ready to give you this number that I want you all to text a short code to. So I'm getting ready to share that number right now. Of course, I would put in the wrong password. So while I figure that out, Siobhan, why don't we start our conversation tonight? Because I want us I want us to get us started on this conversation around identity. I want to just recap some of the ideas that I shared with the ladies, and I want you just to give your perspective on what I shared. And we were talking on Sunday from this thought free to be me, and we looked at Second Samuel chapter 9, and we looked at the story of Mephibosheth, who was the son of Jonathan. And David shows up one day, and David just says, is there anybody from the house of Saul, from the house of Jonathan, that I can be kind to? And Ziba says Jonathan does have a son, and he says his name, and he also says that he is crippled because if you know the story of Mephibosheth, when his father and when his grandfather are killed, there was great concern that now David was going to kill everybody in the house. And so the nurse who was caring for the baby, as she's running and as she's in a hurry, she drops the boy, and the boy ends up crippled from 5 years old all the way onto the rest of his life. So he's crippled, and so he struggles with, with his identity, and it's evident throughout the story. And so, Siobhan, I want to get your perspective on some of the points that I tried to highlight in that story. And the first one is that trauma impacts your life, but it shouldn't define it. So that Mephibosheth is impacted by the trauma of being dropped and how his life changes. But he fell into that sense of even defining himself by that, moving to Lodabar, being a fugitive on the run. Give me your perspective. How would you articulate that as we seek to encourage women around the idea of identity? How would you speak to that point that all of us experience trauma, but that same trauma should not define us?
Yeah, I mean, for even if I use myself as an example, growing up, my household was not mean to me, but the external factors, I definitely had some resulting behaviors as a result. For example, one would be even today, I think I'm coming out of it a little bit, but I'm painfully shy. And
Mm,
I would even go as far to say that sometimes I feel socially awkward. And it's because of my internalization of what people had to say about me, even as I was a young girl.
mm,
But what I had to decide as I was growing up and really coming into who Christ has called me to be was I had to make a decision. Am I going to define myself by what other people have said versus what I know God has called me to be? And the activity that I know that I need to be engaged with. So that trauma of any kind, it could be somebody constantly calling you a name or feeling like you're on the outside or abuse, whatever that trauma is, it definitely can have a mental and emotional impact. But you make a decision to get out of that box. It sounds easy, but it's a conscious decision. And when you don't feel like it, when you want to give up, you have to constantly rely on the power of the Holy Spirit to push you and move you forward. So that's, how I would approach that.
yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. I really appreciate you sharing that. It's you know especially when you talk about this whole idea, even how things that were said to you have impacted even sometimes how you feel socially. That you can be shy, and that can be connected. And of course, as a PK, you've been in the spotlight in a different way, and so your dad's calling ends up becoming your burden to carry as well. You didn't ask for it, but here you are in the spotlight. And then, for some reason, you were crazy enough to marry a preacher after
Lord have
growing up with
mercy.
a preacher. So, uh,
Yeah,
so we ain't even. I ain't gonna get you started on that.
yeah, don't even get me started on that at all. Yeah, you're right. And, a lot of people have said that I'm aloof, I'm mean,
Hmm.
because of the way that I've carried myself in the past. And really, when you get to know me, I'm not aloof at all. I
Hmm.
care very deeply about what you say to me or whatever. It just takes me a longer time to open up and to trust because
Right.
of my experiences. And yeah, that's real. I'm not mean either. I'm very straightforward. I will say that.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
I have not learned the art of subtlety at all. So when I do open up to you and you ask me a question, you want my opinion, I'm really going to give that to you. That's
Hmm.
not out of meanness. It's
Right.
just I haven't learned how to sugarcoat a whole lot at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
I blame my parents. Both my mom and my dad are like that.
Good stuff.
Um, but yeah, it does take me a long time to trust. It takes
Yeah.
me a long time to open up. Um, and I think a lot of people who have had experiences similar to mine
Hmm.
or any type of trauma probably experience the same thing.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. I'm glad that you are having this little moment of transparency for everybody to kind of get this sense that who people are today typically is connected to experiences of their past, and then also when we talk about identity, there is no conversation about identity without conversations around the community that shaped the identity. So,
Mhm.
family, church, school, all of those parties play a part in helping to shape, who we are. And so that's why it's important that we connect ourselves to the right people because all of those people impact us in some way, negative or positive.
Absolutely.
So go to this second thing that we shared and we looked at from the story of Mephibosheth, and that is simply this: the way you see yourself will impact the way you treat yourself. In verse 8, he says, "What is your servant that you take an interest in a dead dog like me?"
Ugh.
And so that's how Mephibosheth saw himself. but that's also how he treated himself, because he hid in a town called Lodabar, a place of no pasture. There seemed to be nothing growing there, and there seemed to be no development there, and the way he saw himself impacted how he treated himself. And so, speak to that for women who need to be careful at what they internalize and what they see in themselves, not realizing that many times what you see is what you'll end up doing to yourself. So, can I kind of speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's true. I think that we need to be careful what we take in, what we read, who we hang out with. Um, and one thing I will say for certain, when you begin to move to your next level in life, spiritually, career wise, whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
And I even say that tongue in cheek because I really believe that everything that we do is connected to our spiritual life. Our spiritual life impacts everything else about us. We're not dichotomous like that. Um, so I kind of say that tongue in cheek. But the point is, be careful when you begin to elevate. There are going to be people who try to hold you back. Like, have you ever noticed that when you receive Jesus Christ as your Savior, for example, um, and you're excited, you feel the change that God is doing in you and through you. You run back and tell those old people that you hung out with, uh, and there's always at least one person that will have something negative to say. Oh, you holier than thou now. Oh, you can't hang out with us. You too good. All of that. And that's true, I think, on any level of life. When you begin to elevate, there are going to be people who try to hold you back.
Right.
And so it is important that you find a community of people who are like minded, um, and will advance you. I will also say that it's important to have people that are around you that are better than you, that have at least gone up a rung or two above where you are, because those are going to be the people that push you. Um, and they will call you out when you try to, have that pity party, like Mephibosheth here, like I'm a dog,
Hmm.
I'm nobody. It takes David to to kind of pull him out of
Right.
that. And so you need people who are like that. And even in this season of my life where I'm trying to come out from behind the curtain, because people who know me well know that I love ministry. I love advancing ministry, but I want to do all of that behind the curtain. I want to
Hmm.
do the background stuff.
Right.
But God has been pushing me more and more to be that person in front of the curtain, not behind the curtain. And that's uncomfortable for me. That really is. But I have a circle of women around me that will call me out if I'm not pushing the way that I need to be pushing. And I believe that these women have come into my life at the right time, to move me to my next level. Because I'm like, I don't even know why you guys want to hang out with me.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Because,
Yeah.
they're politicians, they're entrepreneurs, they're doing this and that, like they're doing nonprofit work that is crazy, and yet they kind of adopted me into that circle, which has been good for me because now I'm seeing things from a different perspective than if I were just to work by myself or with the same people that I have been working with for years.
Yeah, no doubt. And I just want to just reiterate this point, because Shavonne touched on this, but she's also getting ready. She's already on the third point, and we're going to talk about that too. But the way you see yourself will impact the way you treat yourself. Be careful with what you internalize. When we talk about identity, remember, I shared this with you that sometimes we can have an intersection that is unhealthy between our who and our do. The things we do ought not define us. Our past successes or failures should not define us. Our circumstances should not define us. Those are not the sum total of who we are. And we do ourselves a disservice when we allow those things to become the thing that defines us. Because if we aren't careful, once again, those things that we have allowed into our mental space, those things that we have internalized, will ultimately impact and influence how we treat ourselves, what we
Yeah.
settle for, who we settle
Yeah.
with. All of those things are a byproduct of that. Shavonne, you want to say
Yeah.
something?
I do want to touch on that a little bit. Like, don't tell yourself that you can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And don't tell yourself that you're not worth it.
Yeah.
Um, you are worthy. And one of the things that I do want to reiterate that you say all the time is, oh man, senior moment, I lost it.
Mm.
Ah,
If I say it all
oh,
the time, must
if
not be
God
good. Go
has
ahead.
called you, He has also qualified you.
Okay.
He
Okay.
qualifies you for whatever He has called you for.
Mm-hmm.
So never settle for that little voice in your mind that says that you can't do it.
Yeah.
You can do it, and God is going to make provision for you to further yourself and all of that. Um, but that's one of the things that I had for the longest time. Like even starting the nonprofit, like I'm like, well, I really just want to write. I really just want to tell people what my experiences are and how I've overcome them, and leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Where I kind of knew deep on the inside that it shouldn't be just that,
Mm-hmm.
but I told myself that nobody wanted to hear my voice.
Right.
My voice wasn't big enough. My community or my reach was not big enough. And that was kind of paralyzing for me for a moment. And then enter you, and then enter the other people that I had mentioned before to kind of push me forward and say, no, like, if this is something that God has laid on you, then disobedience can't be your choice.
Right.
And one of the things that I've said on social media a couple of times is that how you feel about yourself and what you think your insecurities are, or whatever your securities are, or what you think you can't do, is not enough an excuse to disobey God.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful that our internal feelings don't bleed over to not doing what God has called you to do, or being who God has called you to be.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. And that's and what you just said and some things you said earlier kind of speak to this third thing, and that is God will use others to see in you what you refuse to see in yourself. Here, Mephibosheth is calling himself a dirty dog, but David doesn't see that. David sees Jonathan's son. David sees Prince. David remembers his word. David remembers his promise that he wasn't going to harm anything that was connected to Jonathan. And so we need those Davids in our lives to see the prince or the princess, the king or the queen in us when we feel like that dog, when we feel like we aren't good enough. You talked about your own crew and that you've been blessed by, and and also you touched on this, that some of the people you want in your life are not the people who are necessarily on the same level as you. You want some people connected to you who are on the level you're trying to aspire to. Here,
Mhm.
Mephibosheth is talking to the king. And it's not that those people who are on another level are better than you, but they have excelled in areas that you struggle in. And there is a sense in which they can pull you. If you are always the one that is doing all the fixing in all of your relationships, if you're doing all the problem solving, you need to expand your circle. You need to
Yeah.
have some people who are smarter, who are wiser, who are more experienced, who are more accomplished. And Tony Robbins, he talks about this. When you get to making six figures, you need to start hanging around some millionaires because you want to get to that millionaire level. When you get there, you want to hang around the guys making tens of millions. And once you get there, you want to hang around the guys making billions because you always want to be connected to somebody who was on another level, because you want to have something to look to get to where they are. And also these people who see in you what you refuse to see in yourself. Last thing I'll say, Shavonne, is one of the things I'm sure about your circle. You haven't always necessarily felt qualified for some reason to be connected to some people, but they like, no, 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 no. We see something in you and we want you around. You add value and you bring
Mm.
something to the table, and we see that in you even when you don't see it in yourself. So speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, that is really the truth. And one of the things that one of my mentors said a long time ago is when I started kind of shifting to a different place in my career.
Mm-hmm.
She said, you have to understand that people have brought you to the table because you're the one with the knowledge.
Mm.
And I'm like, what? Because I'm in the room with people who are levels above me.
Right.
I'm like, why do they want this little peon in the
Mm.
room with them? And she helped me find my voice.
Yeah.
Um, and I had to be deliberate about expressing my knowledge in the room without apology. That was that
Yeah.
was probably the thing that I had to learn the most. Like I would always qualify what I was about to say with, "I'm sorry to interrupt this conversation, but have you considered?" And one of the biggest things that she told me was, "Don't apologize for being the smarter person in the room."
Mm.
And that's not being arrogant, is being confident in the knowledge that I've been given or I have accumulated over time. I earned it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the things that I learned over time. And the other thing is, um, you may not see yourself as the princess, the prince, but that's who you are
Mm-hmm.
because you're a king's kid.
Right.
Right. And so walk in who God has made you to be without apology. And again, that's not arrogance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, look at Mephibosheth's um, legacy,
Mm-hmm.
who his father was, who his grandfather was, and all of that. Like, there was no reason for him to see himself as a dog, even though he was broken.
Yeah.
But what I've learned over time is that God uses our brokenness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that same brokenness that He uses for us to minister to other people. And
Yeah.
so don't be ashamed to claim what was broke. Get your healing.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Get your healing. But God will use your past experiences in order to draw others to Himself. And don't be ashamed of that.
Yeah.
Own it and move forward.
Good. But let's briefly touch on this last one, and we're gonna be done for the name. This whole idea, our fit was never with him, was always with him and never with them. Our fit was always with him and never with them. And the reason why I pulled that out of the text is because Mephibosheth, for the rest of his days, ate at the king's table. He ate with King David. Now, for most of his life, he had been in Lodabar, living in that low place, low thinking. And I'm sure he was with people who lived on that level. But sometimes you got to understand that your fit was always with the king because of what your bloodline is, who you are connected to. He was always royalty. You already said this, and so we need to understand that people who think on low levels and people who operate in those low places, they may give us hard times because we pull away and we want to reach out to something better. We want to see something larger. We want to move into, places with more opportunity. And people don't see what we see. We decide we want to start a business. Oh, you can't start no business. I'm moving out the hood. Girl, you know your mama always lived here. Ain't nothing wrong with the hood. You ain't that good that you need to leave us. Just all this stuff that people say. But we've got to realize our fit was always with him. It was never with them. And so we don't have to settle for these low places because of who we are connected to. So speak to that briefly.
Man, you done said it, Doc. Yeah, keep moving forward.
Hmm.
Don't listen to the people in your past.
Yeah.
Seek godly counsel um, and go with that. There is no reason for you to remain where you are when God is calling you for greater. Um, and that is regardless of how you feel. And the thing about our faith walk is that we shouldn't we shouldn't walk in our faith based off of our emotion and how we feel. It needs to be about who God said He is and thus who He says we are.
Mm.
Um, and so get out of your headspace
Hmm.
And what I do know, like there have been some people that I have mentored over time, um, both at the company I work for, other folks that I'm connected to, some folks at Christ Community. And a lot of times we get stuck in our headspace. That's what I have found out. That is not unusual for anybody. We
Hmm.
have these conversations in our mind and we are like a hamster on a wheel. We
Yeah.
just keep circulating that same old stuff and we convince ourselves that we can't go any further. We convince ourselves that our feelings are right when it's totally opposite what God has said. And that keeps us in our low place.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you to let that go and depend on the word of God, what you know he has said, what you know he has said, not what you think, what you know he has said in his word, and move forward and get out of that place, get out of that pit where you are
Yeah.
and get to that elevated space that God wants you to be.
That's so good. I want to just really leave it there. I mean, Shavonne has really given us some words to really hang our hats on, words that we can live by. I want you to remember everything we talked about in Sunday school. Remember Sunday's message. It's just good foundation for us to get ready for tomorrow. Also remember Nikki Page. Oh my gosh, Nikki
Hmm.
Page really blessed us on Tuesday it was, and really kind of gave us some insight, and she was so transparent and allowed us to see life through her lens, but also she took us along on her journey. And one of the things that we can do as people of God is to realize that we aren't in this by ourselves, that all of us are struggling with something. It may not be the same thing, but some of us are dealing with a struggle in some sort of relationship, business relationship, romantic relationship. Others are dealing with situations with their finances. Many of us are struggling in various areas, and so it is good to know that the God of the universe has grace that will cover us. Because one of the places, every time I teach Mephibosheth's story, I'm typically going to preach, I'm going to teach, I'm going to close on this point, that anytime Mephibosheth was sitting at the table, that
Hmm.
cloth of the table was covering up his crippled feet, so that everything that was wrong with him was covered by the king's cloth. And the same way God's grace covers us, so the things that are wrong with us are covered by the God who invited us to his table. And I want you to know that you are covered. You are covered. Your identity rests with him, and you belong at the table. Stop telling yourself that you don't belong. Shavonne already said, stop apologizing. You belong at the table. The king has invited you to the table, and it's for a reason. So you all see this number on the screen. It says text WOP. WOP stands for Women on Purpose. Text WOP to 814-260-9137. And that is especially for those of you who just need the link texted to you in order to register for the conference. Also, we want you to be on the Women on Purpose list, so that we can get that out to you whenever there's something going on. Shavonne's going to be leading book clubs after this, and there's going to be some
Oh,
other
yes.
sessions that some women have, and so we want to be able to keep you updated via text message about what's coming up in the Women on Purpose ministry. So text WOP to 814-260-9137. That's for all the ladies. If you want to be in touch with what's going on with Christ Community Church, period, you can text the same number, and you can just text CC Nation to the same number, and you'll get updates and devotionals from me as it would relate to Christ Community Church. But this is for all the ladies, for Women on Purpose, and I'm going to send out the link via that text for all of you who want to register. So, Shavonne, did you want to speak to what's, again, you want to talk about what's going to happen tomorrow, and then maybe you want to talk about the follow-up for the book club that you're going to be launching as a result of this?
Yes, first I want to say, please, if you're interested in the summit tomorrow, make sure you register because this will not be streamed on Facebook or Instagram. We really want to control the room so that you feel free to be as open as you want to be. And for me, there are just some things that shouldn't be on Facebook or Instagram at all. So please make sure that you register. because that's the only way you're going to hear the content or be able to participate. Okay. And then on the first Saturday of June, I think that's June 6th, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to be reading together a book by Valerie Burton, Valorie. Her
Mm-hmm.
last name is spelled Burton. And it's a book called What's Ruling You Back. And we're going to get together twice a month to discuss what we've learned, the things that we have been challenged on, and we're going to pray together. Um, so we'll be sending out a Zoom link for that too. That's going to be every first and third Saturday. Um, so make sure you join us for that. I'm really excited. I've read that book before, and it's one of those books that I keep open on my Kindle because if I get stuck or if I know that I'm walking down the wrong path, I'll flip to a chapter that I need and get back on track. Um, Especially if I'm kind of struggling with confidence or something like that. Like, what is really at the root of me being stagnant?
Yeah.
It could be laziness. It may not have nothing to do with confidence. And she definitely exposes that. And I also like that book because at the end of every chapter, she has some questions that are challenging you to answer and help you to move forward to your next phase. So, again, we'll have a separate Zoom link for that. And again, that's going to be every first and third Saturday. And the book is called What's Really Holding You Back by Valerie Burton. And I'm just hoping, yes, Angelia, she put up June 6th and 20th, but we're not just going to do the month of June. We're going to do the end book. Um, so I'm really excited about that. As long as you women hang on with me, even if it's two people, I'm going to be on that Zoom link and we're going to be discussing because I think it's important for us to challenge each other, to fellowship together, and to learn together.
Yeah. Steve, I see you. What's up with that exclusion thing? Steve, I'm glad that you mentioned that because I'm coming for the men next. So we gonna have our own summit as brothers. Matter of fact, I actually got two. I just finished working on the youth summit. I'm doing something for our young people, but the men are next. So brothers, any brothers on the call, just know you are next. I'm coming for you. I'm getting things squared away. Shavonne's getting ready to do things with the ladies and brothers. Steve done already called it out. We got next. All right. so, so
Also,
thank you,
can I
Steve.
mention September? That's going to be
Yeah.
the second follow up to the summit.
Yep.
We're going to be talking about being fearfully and wonderfully made. I believe if I hopefully I don't get this title wrong. Fearfully and wonderfully fearless.
Yep.
Um, I think it's important that we continue the conversation because a lot of us have gotten stagnant because we fear. And we also fail to realize that God has made us exactly how He wants us. And He uses our characteristics, He uses our personalities for His purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And we shouldn't be ashamed of that. One of the things that, and I'll say this real quickly, one of the things that I remember when I was a little girl, because I have always felt like the black sheep,
Mm-hmm.
um, both inside and outside of my family for some reason. And it's not, I don't think anything anybody did within my family, but I just always felt out of place. And I felt compelled to do different than what other people were doing. And people couldn't understand that. And I remember talking to my parents about that. Like, I don't want to be different. How come I can't be like them? How come they always talk about what I'm doing? Why is it weird to them?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my parents telling me that God had a purpose for me and that I couldn't fulfill it if I was like everybody else. That's why He made me unique. I mean, I mean to tell you, like, this was a conversation that I had when I was 10 or 11 years old, and I'm 41 now. And that is a conversation that has stuck with me all of these years. And so when I feel like I'm out of place, I remember back to I am unique. I'm supposed to be unique. I'm a different color. I shouldn't be like everybody else. And that's one of the things that I want to make sure that we bring out in both the summit tomorrow and also in September when we get back together with the ladies again.
That's great. I appreciate you sharing that. And just so you know, a couple of things. September is not just the women's conference. The men will be in conference during that Labor Day weekend, as well as youth as well. So it's going to be a full-on family conference. And I'm going to announce this on Sunday, and maybe you all get to hear this first from me. But that we will not be convening our normal service. We are officially not going to be convening in the sanctuary throughout the summer. So June, July, or August, we will continue to work what we've been doing so far on social media and online. We will have some smaller group meetings, person to person. So you all get the heads up on that. You all are the first to hear that we are making the call for June, July, and for August, because we don't want to keep going month to month. Are we coming back? Are we coming back? Are we coming back? We are going to reassess. We already got a team that's going to be meeting on a regular basis, but we are going to really make an assessment in August what it looks like for September. But safety is course of the utmost importance, but also the wisdom that God gives us, and we want to follow God's lead. And so we're going to really focus our energy and maximize all the potential that is right here in the online space. Now, I will say this: we are going to do our park and praise, where people can drive their cars this Sunday. I will be at the Wayne Park building. I'm going to have a microphone outside. The building will not be open, so if you're coming, you're going to be in your cars. And so I'll be preaching. I'll have a couple people out there. They'll be singing. We'll be distanced, of course, but it's going to give me an opportunity just to wave at everybody, for you to drive by, for you to say hello. But again, we're not going to get out of our cars. The only one who will be out will be me, as well as maybe one or two people who will be singing or playing or whatnot. So you all get it first. So I know that the rumor mill is going to be going now. The whole city of Erie going to be hearing what Christ Community is doing. But I love that. You all go ahead and spread that, and I'm going to announce that to the general body on Sunday. But I'm excited about the Women's Summit. Women's Summit is going to be on point. Shavonne, thank you for your leadership in this. Thank you for all you're doing. You all know about 2 years ago, Shavonne wouldn't have been all out front the way she is now. So God is working, and her husband is pushing.
Oh my gosh.
And man, oh man, are we blessed because of it, right? So let me just go ahead and close out. I love every time, Shavonne, I play a groove like this. I want to act like I'm on the radio and be like, "This is the Smooth Jam," and you're listening to Smooth Jams with Darrell Cook. You know what I'm saying? I always
can't with you at all.
Man, shoot, you can't tell me nothing.
And I'm like, hey.
I feel like a radio personality. Come on, somebody. Y'all holler back at your boy. Ladies, make sure you text WOP 814-260-9137. Amen.
And if you're on my Facebook page, if we're friends on Facebook, you can also see the link on my page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, indeed. I'm gonna leave that link up. Man, we're done. I'm getting ready to shut it down for the evening. Anybody still on? Miss Tawny says I'm weak. You laughing at me? Angelia says, thanks. Love the cooks. Angelia, we love you too. Nana says, love it. Good night. That's the reason why I keep my man around. My man Steve. That's my man. $100 grand. DJ Cook. I like it.
He's pumping you up.
That's my man. $100 grand. Leash says, I can't with you. I love you too, Leash. All right, y'all. We up out of here. Appreciate
See you guys tomorrow. Love you guys.
You all have a good night. We on to tomorrow, ladies. We'll talk to you soon.